All right, welcome everybody. Let's kick this thing off here. So, Carrie, you'll keep an eye on the waiting room just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent, thank you. All right, first of all, welcome everybody to the second webinar, which is the Alumni Roundtable. And the purpose of this roundtable is to actually hear live from the founders who've actually participated in the two different cohorts that we've had so far for ChargeUp. So what I want to do is I will go very briefly. I have two slides to share, and then we're going to get right to the founders talking. So today we have on the call, we have Rajan Kumar, founder and CEO of Ateios, and I'm going to have all the companies introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them. We've got Derek Maxwell, Chelsea Abbott, and Tim Bosberg. So let me just give everybody, in case they're not aware, I'm assuming if you're here, you probably already know about ChargeUp, but I'll give you a quick 30-second overview. It's a 6-month accelerator. We run once a year. We're going into cohort 3. It's a hybrid program, which means we do a majority of all our stuff online on Zoom. We tend to do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 1 or 12 to 2. And then 1 week a month for about out of those 6 months, we do in person. And generally they're in Binghamton, but they will also be one in Rochester. We will do one in New York City this year, I believe, as well. So we rotate around throughout New York State. It is powered by New Energy New York, which is in partnership with the Kauffman Southern Tier Incubator. And it's a design battery tech hub in the area, which is why they put Charge Up there. So it's actually NSF funded. And it was started off as an experiment. Hey, can we take this curriculum and this type of program that was built off of another accelerator called Luminate in Rochester and say, hey, if we're going to focus on batteries, can we go to a battery tech hub and really give a lot of gas to these companies? A lot of energy, I should say, lack of pun, to these companies to be put in this area in this ecosystem. The real key components, I mentioned it's a 6-month program. We actually pay you guys to attend. It's a $25,000 stipend. It's non-dilutive. We do not take equity. So it is an all upside situation. You guys have access to, as I mentioned, all of the New Energy New York ecosystem. You also have world-class mentors. Everybody, if you take a look on our website, you can see our board members. And then additionally, there's up to $100,000 for technical development that you can apply for being part of the program. And I believe historically we've had roughly 50% of our companies receive that. And that's for things like, hey, we need to get UL certified, or we need to do battery testing at RIT, or something technical development that's part of one of the partner network. And it's up to $100,000. So last slide I will mention is that we have applications open right now. They open till January 19th. If you have any questions after this, you can email me. You can visit the website. There's FAQ, and anything you need to do will get answered. So let me stop sharing for a moment here, and let's get everybody on the screen. So the whole goal of this is to actually introduce you to the companies that have been through the program and then have me ask questions, but more importantly, you guys ask questions. So if there's something that comes up that somebody's talking about, this is incredibly informal. Don't wait till the end for the question, maybe raise your hand or just jump in unless it gets chaotic. I think that's the best way to do this. So with that being said, let me introduce everybody who's here. So I'm just going to go in order that I see them on my screen. And Tim, if you would like to introduce yourself and give a real brief bio of your company, that'd be great.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me today. My name's Tim Bosberg. So I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Coulomb Technology. We are in the process of developing sodium-ion batteries and systems for BESS applications and starter batteries.
Excellent. You're calling in from Idaho right about now, but it's
Today
no
I'm in
good.
Idaho. Yes, visiting
Excellent.
family for the holidays.
All right, excellent. Next on my screen, Derek.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me too. It's really nice to be back and seeing everybody. My name is Derek Maxwell. I'm the CEO and founder of Amel Energy, and I founded the company based on the idea of replacing toxic solvents and PFA-based binders in lithium-ion battery manufacturing. So our materials are non-toxic, they're cheaper, and all US made and available to shore up supply chains. And we're a materials company focused, not necessarily a battery company.
Excellent. All right, we're going to go over to Chelsea.
Hi, so my name's Chelsea Abbott. I'm from Cellec Technologies. We're based in Rochester, New York. I'm the operations manager there, so not a founder. but definitely involved in every facet of the company. So we're working on commercializing lithium-ion batteries for the aerospace and defense markets. So we have a lot of fun.
Excellent. All right. And Raj.
Yeah. Hey, Andy. Thanks for the intro. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Rajan Kumar, CEO and founder of Ateios Systems. I grew up in upstate New York and now developing one of the world's fastest manufacturing of battery electrodes for all types of chemistries. And we're based at the Battery Innovation Center in Indiana. And I'm calling from New York City for a conference. So glad to be here.
Fantastic. And just to give you a little props, who was the Battery Manufacturer of the Year award winner this year? Does anybody know?
Yeah, Ateios. Yeah, we won top spot for at the one of the
Just checking.
battery shows of the year. So yeah, a bunch of accolades this year. Obviously, great credit to the program. Funding all those demonstrations that put us in a good spot to win those awards.
All right, fantastic. And before I want to get into this, I actually want to mention, because Chelsea, you had mentioned that you're not a founder, but you pretty much acted like one. The part of the program that's really interesting is we need the founders to participate, but all the C-level and senior level people in your team that can participate, we would like them to participate as well. And so one of the reasons we had Chelsea here is she was at every single session. uh, I don't want to say your co-CEO, but it kind of came off a little bit that way, minus the pitching. So I think it's really interesting to have her perspective coming in as the technical or technically not a founder, but being part of the program. So I just want everybody on the call to understand that it's not just one person that's part of the program. Like Tim had Suba's, his co-founder is part of the program as well too. So really a key component to being successful out of the program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a couple questions. I might go around and ask the same one to each of the founders that we have here. That being said, if somebody's answering a question and you want to jump in, Derek, for example, feel free to just jump in. We don't really have to be any formalized setup. So I kind of want to ask, and I'm going to go to Derek first. What made you decide to apply to the program, and kind of what were your expectations going in?
Sure. Yeah, I decided to apply to the program mainly because I'm a technical founder. I have a PhD in chemical engineering. My background was in research and development. So I didn't really have a lot of exposure to, business development. I did most of that kind of ad hoc and on my own to start the business. But to kind of get to that next level and be prepared for investor readiness, I saw the program as being pretty unique, especially with the focus on battery. Um, and also being located in New York State, our initial funding came from the upstate New York NSF energy storage engine. So we kind of wanted to continue to plug ourselves into that ecosystem. It's really a great place for battery development right now. So I think those were the two main reasons.
Okay, and one key component I want to mention, like Derek, you're based in Massachusetts, so this is not
Yes,
just for New York State companies; it's for U.S. companies only.
right.
Uh, but you do not have to be New York State based or have a presence here. It's a U.S. NSF funded program.
Yeah, and
Um,
being right next door in Massachusetts, the commute for the in-person weeks, was reasonable, and we really had like a nice experience, I'd say.
Excellent. Tim, let me go to you next. What made you want to apply to the program? Because I know you've been part of other programs as well. And what were your expectations going in?
Yeah, just the upstate New York ecosystem is really prominent in batteries, and so we wanted to be part of that. And the NSF engine is an amazing thing that it doesn't exist anywhere else in the country. So we actually want to scale up our batteries, and there's a lot of partners that we can use in New York, including Ateios, including RIT, and Stan Whittingham's there, and just being a part of a accelerator that has all battery companies in it, you get to see what other people are doing, what they care about, how they're scaling up, how they're making it work in the US. So it's just a phenomenal thing to be able to be a part of a incubator that's specifically focused on exactly what we're trying to do. So in the region where they care a lot about batteries and there's some funding and just the ecosystem. So lots of reasons is for us to join. So it was great.
Okay. And I'm going to jump over to Rajan for just a moment, just so everybody on the call knows. Tim, Derek, and Chelsea, they were all part of cohort two. And I came on the program part of cohort two. And so, Rajan, I would like you to give your input because you were cohort one. So I don't know if you have a different take on it than the other companies.
No, I think it's pretty much the same. Maybe, it was the first cohort. I know there was like a control group that I heard some positive feedback before. I think our perspective was probably 2023, 2024. We were transitioning from being a full cell business to being a component. And our relationship with Kodak was getting further along. And so we were saying, okay, well, we want to continue doing a lot of work with Kodak. There's kind of those ever-growing network. I think we've heard those, New York is investing in this 50, $100 million kind of, nano tech campus for batteries in Binghamton. So all those factors, supply chain, Kodak, and this kind of battery hub made it very attractive for us. It's like, hey, we should have some presence and see what connections there are, right? We at least have a bare footing with Kodak. How can they accelerate? And then get the value add. And obviously, we've seen other benefits that we have gotten after the year that were added on, right? We initially were looking at the 25K help with this investor, but we've gotten almost now like 105 $500,000 in funding to get not only product out of Kodak to customers, but also domesticating that supply chain. So those were things I didn't even know were benefits that the program was going to do when we initially applied.
Excellent. And I'll keep the same question to you, Chelsea, as well, in terms of what made you guys decide and what were your expectations?
Yeah, and it was definitely a discussion and a decision because we're a small team. So the the time that it would take, from the away from the office, weighed into that, but they they're doing good here. They run on their own pretty much autopilot. So for us, it really came down to obviously the network. We always want to be as engaged as we can in New York State, but a lot of the focus of ChargeUp in getting investor ready and being ready to pitch and how to, speak to this technical product that, you spent however many years working on the technical side, and now it's time to step out into the real world and talk to different kinds of people who would be just as interested but may not be as technical. So for us, it was developing those skills that we've otherwise not spent the time because we were, working on the R&D and optimizing the technology, and now learning how to speak to that product and the people out there who are interested in that.
Excellent. So I'm going to actually throw this out and see if this works without just assigning it to a person. If it doesn't work, I'll ask somebody specifically. But in terms of like the day-to-day structure of the program, what surprised you most about the program itself? And this could be good, could be bad. It's an open forum here, so I'm curious to get everybody's feedback. And I don't know if anybody wants to just jump in or Tim.
Yeah, so I've been in a few other programs, Clean Tech Open and the Spark Incubator, and it's pretty typical for an accelerated program. The agenda was very typical, so it was good. There's really good speakers that came and talked about each specific topic, whether it be marketing or legal advice or pitching advice. So that was good. One thing that stood out for me was the mentors in the program are all battery specific or mostly battery specific people. And that was phenomenal because they help, they know what our pains are and how to address questions. And so that was unique and that was very, very helpful. I still talk to my mentors today.
Fantastic. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll add. Basically, I thought it was more of the connecting of dots. So when we got there, we're just with Kodak, but then we found like, Novian, which is a domestic graphite supplier in I think in Buffalo. They're working with Kodak, right? And then we find, oh, they're supplying it to someone in Oniota. So once you actually get, actually foothold, you're in those kind of interactions, and you start connecting the dots where maybe on a glance looking on the internet might not be there, and you can actually engage with those customer supply chain, what are problems and solutions. And I think that that synergy, you like kind of Tim said, is you don't get that for, even me and Tim are part of the Innovation Crossroads, which is a very deep tech, Oak Ridge National Lab, but it's not, it has some battery, but it's not solely battery focused. And so that's the unique thing about the network and connecting dots there.
Okay, excellent. Chelsea or Derek, anything to add or no? I can always go on to another question. No problem. All right. We'll take your silence as moving on to the next one. So, and again, I'll throw this one out to the group in a sense. How did you guys, and Chelsea, this actually might be more very much aligned with you. Is how did you guys balance the program with running the company? Because you said your company runs on autopilot over there, but I know that you're running the operation.
Yeah, it definitely was, like I said, a decision in the beginning, but then it took that extra level of planning, to know that, whether it's just one of the webinars and that's twice a week, or it's a travel week, really, really trying to get everything as set as possible to go and immerse fully in ChargeUp, but having that leniency for myself that this is real, this has to run, So there were times that I'd spend a few hours after and just do what's needed. So maybe putting in a little bit more time, just to make up for the lack of presence, at certain points. But we also found it pretty valuable to always give them that update, and kind of what's coming up. If there's any webinars, we definitely try to engage our team, and the online ones were a lot easier for that, but just sharing it and keeping it, it's for the company, so keeping that focus, but also, like I said, a little extra time if it's needed. But it's a startup, it's a small company. That's kind of how I started. You get light weeks and you get weeks that are double regular work, and that's just how it rolls. But
Excellent. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I think in our cohort, Amel Energy was the smallest startup, right? It was
Yes.
just two people, and then it went to one, and then it went to two. So it's kind of a different journey, I'd say, for me. And there was quite a bit of juggling, but like being able to become a founder in the first place, taking that risk, like Chelsea said, it's a decision up front, right? Like if you know what you're getting into and you're ready for it and you're hungry for it, it'll be okay. But if you're really early and just looking at proof of concept phase and you don't have any results yet, like that's something you might want to consider, because this is really more business focused. This is getting customers. This is being prepared to talk with investors. This is not something that goes hand in hand with technical development. So you really have to be able to schedule properly and know ahead of time, like, yeah, this is a travel week and I'm not going to be able to get in that lab. And if I have to coordinate with somebody else back at HQ, it's going to be more challenging. So, you don't go into it lightly, but if you're a slightly larger entity, if you have a few folks, maybe you can plan a little differently. Like Chelsea said, autopilot with some of the engineers back at the facility. Like I didn't have that experience, so you can do it when you're small, but you really just have to know ahead of time, kind of like what you're getting into.
Yeah. So from that, talking about time, in terms of the commitment with it, we'll go to I'll jump over to the in-person weeks, because that is obviously a time commitment. And we have taken a lot of your feedback, which actually I'm going to get to a little bit later in the webinar, is, your feedback and then how we've actually going to make, or how we're making adjustments moving forward based on that. But if you're looking at like the in-person weeks, I guess, and I'll throw it out to the group, what did you guys find is sort of the most valuable? And, what stood out, if anything, from them?
well, right off the bat, the energy in an in-person week is, you can't match it, right? So we're in the room with, our cohort, and sure, we've seen each other on Zoom or exchange emails or even text messages, because there definitely was a closeness that came out of the group, and a collaboration. But in person, you're there, you're seeing each other, you're working off that energy. And again, sharing, collaborating, and nothing matches that, I think. So the in-person weeks, I always look forward to them as much as it is a travel week away. So yeah, they were great.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just add for us, we did, I think what we really benefited from the program is actually we, while we did the in-person, we had some of our team do pilot projects as well. So when we were in Rochester, we had Kevin, our CTO, do a coding run that day with Kodak, and then I would go after the day meet there. So that was actually really beneficial, because we were able to kill multiple birds with, one stone. We were able to go through the program, meet with Kodak, demonstrate materials, just and then we got marketing content that we worked with Carrie and all those. So that was I think one strategy we really leveraged is looking at the schedule and timing how we're doing projects with at the same time while doing business development.
And Tim, did you want to add something, or did he cover that?
Yeah, just being in person just puts a level of intensity in things, and it does drive you to do more. Just you're in presence with other people, and it's good. So it's important, I think, to do that, because when you're on Zoom, maybe you're half focused or you're not quite as there. But when you're in person and you're meeting, you have a mentor in front of you, and it's just a different level of engagement that helps you to push yourself. You only get out of the program what you put into it. So it helps you to put more into it and to be more serious. So it's a good thing. Plus, logistically, it's not too bad to get there, and the hotel price that's close by is really low cost, and
That's true
it's
too.
great.
So I'm going to jump around a little bit, but because I want to go back to the cohort and speaking about what it was like being in a cohort. But in terms of the in-person pieces, we obviously did a lot of tours. We mentioned RIT, we mentioned Kodak. I'm curious to know from the people on the call, what were the ones that were either the most valuable or the most interesting, or were there one that you're like, hey, we don't need to do that one again if you're doing that for cohort 3?
I really like the one with Raymond forklifts because they could be a customer to us. So just seeing what they're doing there and learning how they're integrating their batteries, who they buy them from. We actually saw their inventory sitting there. That was really big for me, and we're still in conversations with them. So I really like the Raymond one. Kodak was also great. RIT was great. We're actually looking to use RIT and Kodak along with Ateios if we can. Um, yeah, those three to me were really top notch just for our scale up of our company.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Raymond tour specifically for me stood out. Again, having that lens of operations, and so walking through a facility, seeing what's really going on, just as far as even storage, right? How much are they keeping in house? What's their process like? What are these employees experiencing? Are they in a good, do they have a good demeanor, or is it kind of, that how so for us, that's where I look and I'm like, how do I see us building that facility? And so obviously it's cool to see what's going on in the tech side of it. But for me, it's like, how do they run this? Where have they, shifted? Where have they added departments? Where have they taken them down? And really what is keeping this successful? So I found that those tours very, very interesting.
Interesting. So I'm going to jump a little bit, as I said, around because you guys had mentioned the cohort. And to everybody who's on the call, before I'm going to sort of give the answer away a little bit, but before you got on, Tim and Derek and Chelsea were on. They were all in the same cohort. And one of the first things I think two of them said was, "Oh, wow, it was really nice, very, really nice to see you guys again." And I felt the same way. So I think that that is going to sort of give away their answer. But I'm curious to know, and I'll throw it out to everybody, what your feelings were being part of a cohort. What were the benefits of it? Have you guys carried that over outside of the program? Sort of just give that, not camaraderie, but give everybody a look into what it is like to be part of a cohort.
Oh no, that's definitely the right word. I think at least for cohort two, we felt like we were getting to know each other pretty well. Some of the struggles that we've had were very similar for each company, even at different stages. So it's also like a peek into different perspectives. So I think my comparison point was when I was in grad school, I did an engineering leadership cohort, and it felt kind of like that. It was a little bit smaller, but the idea of having other folks that are in the same boat as you and understanding, like what you're balancing or what your challenges might be, feeling that like support, it's definitely camaraderie. And I think that the ChargeUp crew did a great job in selecting the potential cohort members. And I don't know, Andy, if you're going to talk about how the selection process went, but when it was revealed to us after we were discussing at dinner one night, it was very sobering or humbling. And then we were chatting about it and we're kind of like happy, like, okay, well, we're here, right? And
Right.
the control versus the experimental group, I guess, is what I was getting at. But I'm really glad that we were part of the in-person and the camaraderie. I think that was really important.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Anybody?
yeah, I'll add for obviously I'm the only one from cohort one, but I think we were definitely probably further ahead compared to our other, but we were able to provide a lot of value. Like I remember Standard Potential, they were trying to make this a cobalt-free cathode. And we gave them real volume pricing of suppliers in China and the US, right? So they have a perspective, do they even have a business? Building out this material and kind of what price points, what parameters, what are our customers looking for that type of chemistry. So I think that kind of, industry sourcing and kind of mixing and then kind of like, hey, we can help you with the electrode. You don't need to take that over. I think that's some collaborations that we've done with Tim is like, hey, I think this whole challenge with the batteries, right, is that everyone is assuming you're going to have to raise a lot of money to take on every little step, right? When the strategy should be focus on what you're good at and work with partners to help bridge the gap, right? We have a manufacturing platform. We already have production with Kodak. Do you really want to raise 20, 30 million to build your own facility? Or can you work with Ateios and Kodak who have done that? And then the main goal is to get your product to customers' hands. So I think that type of industry sharing and kind of deliverables, that's the synergy that we get with our court and with the network and infrastructure that is with the New York State.
Yeah, I want to say something quick too. So I agree with what Rajan said about working together to potentially help each other or test each other's material which we're doing as well. But also, like I've been to some conferences after ChargeUp already, and a couple of the same guys in our cohort were there, and just cheering each other on and seeing what each other are doing, and recommending conferences and stuff is good. It was great to see the guys at the Tech Connect conference recently, and yeah, it's really good to have that relationship to help keep us all going.
Yeah, we'll get into some post-program stuff in just a couple minutes as well. So let's go on and talk about, or I'm sorry, Chelsea, did you have something to add?
Nope, I
Okay.
agree with all of that.
All
So
right. So let's get on and talk about the pitch process. Well, let's talk about pitching and the investor readiness process that the program puts you through. So I want to get everybody's feedback in terms of how they felt that, going in, to the program. Because to get into the program, I'll back up and go to what Derek said. There's a selection process. You guys apply, and then we go through and we start down selecting companies. Hey, these are the companies we want to hear pitch to us. And then we have 20, 30, whatever that number is, in February pitched to the ChargeUp team as well as to our board and maybe some outside experts if it's something we don't have the specific knowledge of right there. And from that pitch that you're doing, which is like a typical 10-minute pitch, we then down select to the teams that we select for ChargeUp. And so you guys have heard a little bit about control and subject teams, which was part of the experiment for cohort one and cohort two. That is not going to be part of cohort three. There are just companies that are in the program, and that's it, because we're finished with the experiment part. So coming into the program, I'll sort of ask you guys all this: your investor pitch coming in versus your investor pitch coming out, and what I guess How would you describe that? Maybe I'll just leave it as open-ended as that. I'll throw that out to the group as well.
I'll
My coming in, I'll say something real quick. My investor pitch coming in was, 15 pages long and way too technical. And coming out, it was like 4 pages, a few words. So the program, even you, Andy, helped me a lot to refine my pitch. And then there's some questions I see in the chat. Did we get an investment? Not necessarily, but we did get singled out by some people from this program to talk about investments and apply to some grants. So things don't happen right away, but it helped grease the skids for that.
Yeah, I think for us, as I mentioned, the group, we were before 2023, 24, we were doing entire cells. And so when at the time of the court, we were saying, hey, even to the charge up, hey, we're going to move towards electrode. That was still a very new model for investors. So, charge up gave us really good feedback on how to guide it, how to market it, how to message that, like, we're selling the critical component and that kind of messaging. I think where we got a lot of benefit from ChargeUp is they actually helped us work with Kodak to execute and getting those products into the market. So, last year we were able to get LCO product in the market. We had Apple, Microsoft, commit to POs this year. Getting those samples, that was critical for ChargeUp. And then I think for us, what was a killer for us is that this year, all that funding that we got from ChargeUp, about 350K from Superboost, that helped us achieve this really top milestone of 80 meters per minute. And that was really the thing that got us over the top of getting Kodak to actually make a public announcement of our technology. We had Stan Whittingham, and we did get a term sheet in April. So, that I think, we're that's a tangible return on investment. After a year, we got tangible milestones on both commercial and production, which got us a term sheet. And our hope is now close it, and then as we build this network, right? Our group here, our hope is that we'll continue to make warm intros and give feedback, that can help us go to, help each cohort get to the next stage.
Excellent.
I was gonna say
Yep.
when we got started, so this is something that, as I said, we really weren't looking at or focusing on yet. It was like, this is to come in the future. And then so we weren't even necessarily looking for investment, but wanted to know how to be positioned the minute we were ready to go. So our initial deck was very technical. I mean, most of it did just come from reports, which that's very technical. And throughout the program, we refined it, we changed it, we learned what we really wanted to say. And through that came at the end. So throughout the process, we'd try this, we'd try that, we'd tweak this, we'd, try a couple different things, and change one or two. And then by the end, we came out with something that both myself and my CEO are very proud to see, happy to share, right? Where before that, it may have been, is this the right audience? That kind of a thing. And it put us in a position that we were really hoping to get to. But in the beginning, I was, this is something I've hardly breached yet. Is it going to make sense? And now it does. And we're very happy with where we're at.
Yeah, I think a big takeaway too is just clear, concise messaging, making sure that you have that 30 seconds right. People need to be able to walk away with exactly what you're doing and not have any confusion. And that's actually really, really difficult for just about anybody to start on their journey and have that down. Like it comes with practice and time. And I think ChargeUp, they gave us lots of time to practice, right? So like that's super valuable.
Yeah, I guess to that point, I was going to ask you guys about some programming, but I want to jump in maybe a little bit ahead. The way the program works is that you start off at the beginning, it's April, and everybody's got their pitch, and then we start working throughout the pitches for the first few months, and then usually around August 1st or so, we start getting into what we call 5x5 pitches, where we put you in front of actual investors, and it's not necessarily for investments, for feedback, because there's always the axiom, hey, if you ask for advice, you get a check. You ask for a check, you get advice. So what we try to do is put you in front of a friendly audience that's going to be a little bit harsh in the feedback, so that you can actually practice that pitch and hear what you're going to get, hear what an investor is going to say back. And every investor is going to say something different. And as I always have told everybody in the cohort, the person who's right is the one who writes you the check. But I'd like to get your feedback on the 5x5 pitches and how valuable or maybe invaluable or not as valuable, excuse me, I should say, you guys felt that they were for you. And I'll throw it out to the group.
It's always good to get feedback on your business model, your plans, your pitch deck, your how well are you presenting yourself? So, as many times as you can get that and to refine your message, it's huge, right? It helps you not only to refine your business, but also to speak in a way that's clear to investors. And yeah, it's and a lot of the people that were in the 5x5s understand our industry, so it's valuable for sure.
Anybody else have any thoughts on those?
I would just second what Tim said there, and it's, as many times as you can get feedback, as many times as you can get in front of somebody either new or someone that has already seen maybe one iteration. It just helps refine that message and helps you reach, again, that audience that you're hoping to get to. You get one or two people giving you feedback, and then you put everything into that. Well, maybe you're tailoring it just for them, right? So as much as you can and in different pitches, it's really, really helpful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would add the 5x5s getting that feedback, as I mentioned, just clarity on your messaging. People are busy, they're not always focused, and they'll be upfront with you and say, hey, I need to get this immediately or else, you might miss your opportunity. And I remember back when I founded the company in 2022 and I would talk to people and they'd be like, what do you do? And that went away pretty quickly within the program. And a lot of the feedback that I started to get was, no, we understand exactly what you do. It's pretty straightforward. And, it's a really gratifying change throughout the history. So, I think that's bare minimum. You got to be able to get that out of the program.
Definitely. So we've heard how great the program is. It's done all these wonderful things for you. It's obviously not perfect. So I'm curious to get your feedback. If you guys could, change one thing about the program or, I guess just change one thing, would say, what would be the thing that you'd want to see more of or better or less of, I guess. I'll throw it out to the group.
I would say, even though, like, well, I would say more supply chain understanding, especially around the New York ecosystem, because there's so much there to help. It kind of came organically, and I got a good understanding of it, but you're learning more about how we can make it in the US as a battery company and what supply chain resources exist. Batteries are hard and there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of competition. China's doing amazing. And for us to win in the US, we really need to work together, is my thinking. Kind of like what Rajan was saying, we should not try to do everything, but learn who's best at one thing, like electrolytes or cathodes or manufacturing or something, and then learn to work together. So that whole cohesive supply chain piece, I think, would be super valuable. You may have done it. I didn't go to all the sessions. Suba went to some, so maybe I missed if you did.
All right, I'm going to go over to Derek and Chelsea because I know you guys did, because just so everybody on the call knows, we do bi-weekly NPS scores and we ask for people, hey, what do you think of the program as of today? And then what do you think of the instructors we had the past few weeks? Is there something you can change? And you guys both have given, I say critical, I don't mean that in a negative way, but constructive feedback back. And we've definitely taken it to heart. So I'm curious to hear from you guys as well, what your thoughts are in terms of, if you could redesign the program or you could add one piece or remove something, where you think we could be stronger for the next cohorts coming up.
Yeah, something we had discussed at Select, just again, we were very focused on building a battery, and finding and keeping those customers happy. But more battery focused content, with less business focused content, if that makes any sense. And so we sat through an HR pitch, and for me and for our company, we've done that for years. We've got a handbook, we've got all this stuff. But some of that came back to, I'm speaking with my CEO and he's like, we're at a different stage. So these companies are 6 months old to 6 years old. And for someone else, that may have been really valuable. For me, I'm like, oh my God, like I don't want to sit here and learn this. I already know this. But with those, anything New York specific, because at least the ecosystem we're looking at is in New York. Any updates and that kind of stuff are always very, very important as far as compliance and that. So there's value in those, but maybe just more directed and less starter, when it comes to that.
Excellent.
Yeah, to add
Good.
on that, I think some of the financial fundamentals, they were more or less like kind of every founder should have a decent grasp on most of the terms and how finances work for a business. And that maybe it could be elevated slightly, right? Like I think the pieces and the potential they're there. I could sense they're, you know, we were only the second cohort, and maybe Raj can speak more to first, but like growing pains, right? Like I didn't take this off. It's with a grain of salt. Like you have to kind of understand that it's a one size fits all approach, but we're trying to fit in a bunch of different companies and at different stages, like Chelsea said, right? So like all of the content as a whole looks pretty great, but like there's definitely going to be bits and pieces where you're like, oh, I already know that, or oh, this wasn't super valuable to me, or this is way down the road and we're not even close to manufacturing at that level. But having a general um, syllabus or something like upfront, provided to companies might be helpful. Just this is what you're in for. Like that might be something beneficial, and that way people can plan a little bit further ahead instead of like a week or two ahead, being like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna sit through 2 hours of something we already know, and that can help save some effort. Or you can bring in a different person from the team that isn't exposed to that to learn about it, right? So like there could be a little bit more in terms of coordination that could help.
I'll go to Rajan because you were cohort one, so it would be
Yeah,
interesting.
I was gonna say, I mean, obviously ChargeUp has a challenge where they've got to make this program fit for every type of startup, right? For
Yep.
people who are just like Derek with one person to at the time we had 9 people, right? So I think the way I would say there's pros and cons of any program. I think, you got to work with Andy and Carrie and say, hey, this is where we're at. These are our objectives at the end of the program, and that helps, right? So if you're saying, hey Andy, we've got 1 million left, right? We've got to close around, right? We've already got production. Then they can work on shifting that kind of priorities, right? Hey, let's make intros at the beginning of the program instead of doing 5x5s later, or help facilitate that, right? So I think those are things that can kind of take the base program and make it more catered to your specific challenges. And the second thing I think for kind of program, which I think Carrie and I have talked about, is since 2022, this whole entire VC landscape has changed, right? Uh, all those people, a lot of people who were incumbents, they have left, and there's new people that, and even like major OEMs like LG, Panasonic, right? They're shying away from battery investments, not to discourage this group. So I think it's where we need to is, I know most of the programs have been in New York. I think we as a core, we need to set up like trips to go out to SF, really meet those investors and kind of schedule to kind of really build up the reputation of ChargeUp, that everything coming out of ChargeUp is going to give immediate returns to investors, and then it'll flip the narrative that we have in this industry. And I think those are the two things that I would address is kind of understand where you're going, and then obviously work with the program to adjust with your needs.
Excellent. Tim, anything to add to that, or all covered, would you say?
I think it's all good.
All right. So I'm going to ask you guys all one last question or two because I want to make sure we opened up for some questions so we have time at the end. Looking because everybody here on the call outside of you guys are all looking, hey, should we be in this program? Should we be applying? And I wanted to ask a very specific question. What would I guess I'll put this as sort of a two-part question and throw it out to both, and you can answer either part. What type of company do you think gets the most out of ChargeUp? And then what would you tell somebody considering applying for ChargeUp? So it's sort of a double question. I'll throw it out to the group. Or I'll just call on somebody and we'll do that. Tim, you lit up green over here. I don't know if it's because you're laughing, but like, what would you say, what type of company do you think gets the most out of ChargeUp? And then what would you tell that person from that company, uh, about considering applying for it?
Um, I guess I'll do the second piece first. So when you to do any of these accelerator programs, it's a commitment. So you can get a lot out of it, but you have to be prepared to put into it and to open your mind and learn things that maybe you think it's down the road, but it's important to consider all those facets to start a company. So the marketing, even the HR stuff is important. You need to follow rules. You need to make sure you're doing things legally. So all that is really good and important to do. So yeah, I just go into it with a mindset that this is going to help your company. And when you're presenting yourself to at the beginning of the program, I just be honest where you're at, what you can get out of the program, what you've done today, and how focused are you to make your startup work? What have you done? How are you different than others? Just make sure you're showing that you have enough of a company that they believe you really want to make this work, right? So because they're going to spend time with you, so they want to make sure you're a person that has that drive and that energy to make it go. So I would suggest those things.
Yeah, I would suggest, so we went through the program, both of us attended just about everything. I'd say there was, two or three on either side that I might have missed a webinar and my CEO may have missed one or two, but everything has value. And so that was our approach from the very beginning is there's something useful I can get out of every piece of this. Now, it may not be that, wow, but we would end every session and say, well, what was good, what was bad, and what surprised me? And then having two different perspectives, digesting that information really, really helped us turn it into something actionable. And so again, you need to be committed if you want to do it. Otherwise, just don't, right? Let someone else have the opportunity, but you don't have to know everything by any means at this point. Just show up ready to learn, know that you're going to have to challenge yourself and get introspective when it comes to, why am I running this company? What do I want this to become? And it just, you can take so much out of that if that's how you go into it.
Excellent. I'll say, yeah, Rajan or Derek, any thoughts, Chad?
Just quickly is that I think probably the most valuable stage would be when you're ready to raise funds, when you're looking at dilutive opportunities when you're talking to investors, you have customers or you're actively pursuing them, and you're at a technical readiness level that allows you to do those activities with minimal resistance. I think if you're at that stage in business development, this program is definitely going to be a lot more valuable. If you're earlier than that, you can still get value from it. I think like, Amel and Cellec, we're kind of more looking at how do we get the skills and the know-how to be able to do those activities. When we're ready for them, we will act. But if you're at that stage and you're ready to go, like this is a better fit, I'd say.
Excellent. So we have just a few minutes left, and then Carrie, I have not been monitoring the chat, so I apologize. I'm trying to answer questions. Are there questions in the group or from the group that we have not addressed that we should answer?
Yeah. So one of the more recent ones was one company is asking if they're raising a seed round, a few million in Q1 of 2026. Does that make them too mature or
No,
ineligible for the program?
nope, absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, if you're past Series A, that's really going to be, or if you're even, if you just close the Series A, that would be a little more challenging, I'd say. But even there, we could work with you, but seed 100% right in our sweet spot.
Perfect. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to respond before you got a chance to comment on that. There was another question about looking at different types of batteries and if fuel cells were in the portfolio of companies that we're looking to be a part of cohort 3.
Yeah, so I don't believe that we have. I'm trying to remember from previous cohorts, but that is definitely something that is part of the mandate of the program itself. So yes, it would be something that would be applicable. So the way, as I mentioned before, with the application process, it's really going to be the board that decides who gets accepted because the goal is for them to be able to say, hey, these are the people I can help the most or connect the most to. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, we need to move you from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2.
Yeah. Yeah. There was another question from someone talking about they have a solution for energy storage systems. They're not specifically developing batteries, but it's more about portable energy storage solutions, looking at end consumers' use. So just going to ask that question too, right? If that's a technology or a portfolio company that we're looking to have in the next cohort.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, each cohort's going to be different. I mean, so you do some portfolio balancing. Yes, you wouldn't want to have three of the same company in there, but that definitely is something that falls under the domain.
Gotcha. Very good. We had another question from someone who was in a control group before in
Is
cohort.
it, are these all questions for me or are they for the group? Just out of curiosity.
I got so these are questions that are in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So it's a specific question about what kind of opportunities are available for control companies that would have been in the.
Yeah, so control, so that would be Milan. You are able to apply, you would become a full member of the cohort 3, the exact same opportunity. So there's no you only have the exact same opportunities as everybody else.
Gotcha. Yeah, very good. And there were just a couple of other questions just about, what kind of investment opportunities, were a part of or in conclusion of the program for the companies. And I know we touched on this already, and some of the folks here on the call already chimed in, but in case there's anything else that anybody wanted to add on that topic,
Yeah, I was going to say
maybe if you have
maybe
something to
I was
say.
going to say maybe Rajan. I know that you mentioned a little bit about that. If you were able to either recap that or if there's anything else you'd want to add.
Let's see. No, I think that was about it. Yeah.
Okay. We're incredibly grateful to Derek and Tim and Rajan and Chelsea for giving us the time today and answering all the questions. Again, you didn't have to, and I really appreciate it. I think it also goes to show to the people on the call how the cohorts are built and that we try to choose people that we actually like to work with too. You have to have a great business, you have to have a great product, but you also have to be a good human being. And also goes to show that post-program, Rajan can speak to a little bit more than the other ones that we actually are involved and we actually want to become more involved. That is definitely one of our mandates moving forward as well too. So join the LinkedIn group, Chelsea and Tim, and they'll be more involved. So thank you all very much. Thank you all for attending. My email was up earlier. If you have any questions, please let me know. And with that, give you guys all a minute back in your day. So thank you.
And,
Had
and
a
Andy,
quick
I want to say thank
question.
you and
Oh,
everybody for all the hard work in this program. It was awesome.
oh,
Thank you.
thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Andy,
guys.
for